Well, welcome everyone on this very auspicious day, even though some people make fun of me with this auspicious day thing, because every day is auspicious, but this one is extra auspicious, okay? Because today is the completion of Navaratri, the 9 days or 9 nights of Mother Divine, culminating in Ram Navami, which is Ram's birthday today. So Kaya and I thought it would be a really wonderful day to converge for the very first time all the people that are, well, both who have already dove into Sita's gems, and then also invited people who took my Ramayana course back in 2021. And then Kaya also invited some of her students who are really well versed in Vedic storytelling. So we have a very well-rounded group here. Anyway, we're going to be spending about maybe an hour and a quarter. We'll see how the questions go. And some people told me they're a little concerned they don't have questions. That's fine. Kaya and I will make up questions if you don't have questions. We can also share experiences. And Kaya has maybe agreed to do a command performance as a narrator, because Kaya was a narrator on the Sita's Gems production. Some of the satsangs we've been having with the contributors, the commentators. And but Kaya was on the other side of the mic, but deeply steeped in Vedic knowledge as well.
No.
And I'll also, and if anyone who doesn't know me, maybe some of Kaya's students, my name is Michael Sternfeld. I'm the producer of the Sita's Gems project. So it's just beautiful to have Kaya here because we never did a rehearsal. We never did a recording session without Kaya doing a little chanting. So I would like to invite Kaya, and let me just, for the people who don't know Kaya, I have to give a little introduction. Kaya was the only one of the people involved in the production that I didn't really know. She was referred by her friend Malika Bush, and Malika said, "You have to meet Kaya, who's a dear friend of mine. She's a Vedic storyteller. She's deeply steeped in the Ramayana." And I tease her that her and her husband, Michael, are the most Vedic couple I've ever met, living by the Shastras every day. She's just an amazing storyteller, deeply steeped in yoga, in Jyotish. They really, in the West, I consider them a very, very special couple. And Kaya has been an absolute joy to work with. So she's going to do I believe, a Ram chant and then a Vishnu Mahalakshmi chant, right?
Yes. Yes.
And probably it would be valuable for everyone to mute now, if you haven't already. We're going to open it up a little bit later, where you can open your mics, okay?
Beautiful. Hi, everyone. Yes, so this is a verse about Ram and Sita that I did at the beginning of each of the rehearsals that Michael and I did together, and before all of the recordings of narration that I did on Sita's Gems. So I'll begin with this verse to Ram and Sita. Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha. And then, of course, Ram is Vishnu and Sita is Lakshmi. So we thought it would be nice to also do the Vishnu Lakshmi Gayatri that comes at the end of the Shri Suktam to the goddess. Om. Mahadevyai cha vidmahe Vishnu patnyai cha dhimahi Tanno Lakshmi prachodayat. Now I think I'll share the meaning of this one. It's right on point for the end of Navaratri and for Sita, who is Lakshmi. So this one means, I wish to have the knowledge of the most supreme goddess. I meditate upon she who is the partner of Vishnu, supreme consciousness. May the lustrous Lakshmi please come to me and illuminate my mind.
And could you chant it one more time? It's just so beautiful now that we know the meaning, because it's so short.
Yeah. Oh. Mahadevyai cha vitmahe Vishnupatnyai cha dhimahi Tanno Lakshmi prachodayat.
Mm.
Mm.
So now well begun is half done. We're anchored. And we thought it would be, thank you, Kaya. It's just always takes me into that deep centered place. And we're going to do a few more things before we open it up to questions and discussion and experiences to kind of anchor this, because it is kind of a confluence today of two worlds. And actually, there's only really one world, but it seems like there's two worlds. We have the divine masculine embodied by Ram and the divine feminine embodied by Sita. So I wanted to give, Kaya and I are going to each give a little essence statement on Ram and Sita, because it is both the culmination of Navaratri, the 9 days of Mother Divine, and Ram Navami. So my essence statement is, this morning I pulled out, many of you know my teachers, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and he wrote an amazing book called Ram Ramayana, Ram Raj, Ram Leela. Never released in the West, but there's just such beautiful essence statements about the nature of Ram. So I'm just going to paraphrase some of these here now to anchor. What is this Ram energy? Brahm Brahm Paramarat Rupa. Ram is Brahm, totality, embodiment of transcendental reality. Ram is Brahm, totality of pure being, all-pervading Dharma, the light of natural law that rules the universe. Ram is the light of life. Ram is the light of life in the heart of everyone. Ram is the light of life present in every grain of creation. Ram, the light of life, is the light of pure knowledge, the Ved. A little bit more. Ram is the embodiment of pure spirituality, pure being, totality in its absolute unity. All activity in the universe is orderly because of that eternal law of life. The administration of Ram, which establishes and maintains harmony in all relationships, which harmonizes everything with every other thing in the universe. Ramayan and Ram sings the supreme and unfolds all the supremely delicate emotions, developing the total ideal of life in the heart of everyone, in the mind of everyone, in the intellect of everyone, in the being of everyone, in the behavior of everyone. Ramayana plays Ram Leela in the consciousness of everyone. Ramayana, the sing-song of eternal life, is a direct means to the unfoldment of Brahman, the total reality in every jeev. It inspires the rise of every boundary to eternal freedom. That's Ram, Ram, Ram. Maryada Purushottam Ram, the embodiment of absolute order in the universe. That's my essence of Ram. Kaya, what do you have to say about Sita?
Jai Shri Ram. Sita. Sita is Shakti, isn't she? She is all, and all is within her. Sita seems at first to be so full of contradictions, doesn't she? She's innocent and wise. She's gentle, and yet she can be fierce. She is submissive, but at other times very commanding. And she is equally comfortable in the role of princess or queen and forest dweller. And I think for many people, and for me as well, early on, it was hard to grapple with all of these seeming contradictions. And I think because of this, she's sometimes rendered one dimensional. You know, we choose to just see Sita one way or the other, and usually as the gentle, innocent, submissive wife, maybe because it's more comfortable. But she is all of that and more. She is not one dimensional. She is not only multi-dimensional, she is all the dimensions. Because she's the goddess, and also because she's a woman, right? The masculine is linear, does one thing at a time. And the feminine has all the arms. Durga has 18 arms. She's doing all the things, all at the same time. Because she's Shakti, she's always moving. And in Sita, the opposites are not contradictions. It's all working together in a divine collaboration. All of the aspects of Sita are alive and working together in balance, not in contradiction. So I think we can learn from Sita as human beings to allow all of the aspects of ourselves to live in us, to embrace all of ourselves. And we can also learn to accommodate seeming contradictions in other people as well. We can allow people to be wholly who they are, which is a beautiful thing and brings peace. And as Michael shared words of his guru, I'll share some words from my guru, Puja Swami Dayananda, who said, Sita, the secret of the name Sita is that it also is a word for Shanti. She is Ram's peace. And this is why the only time we see Ram lose his Shanti is when he loses his Sita. So to be so dynamic, she moves the story. There is no Ramayana without Sita. No Sita, nothing doing. She moves the story. She is the fire. And yet she is the Shanti at the same time. So maybe we can each learn to be full and harmonious like Sita.
Beautiful essence statement, Kaya. Thank you. I hope you indulge me for a moment now. Just because during the course of this project, Sita's Gems, which took way longer than I ever could have expected. You know, we can speculate about the reasons behind that in a moment, or later. But one of my practices during this is something I'd like to share with you is after I would finish meditating in the morning, before I started my day, particularly to just the extraordinary amount of details needed to do this production. Let's see, Undine is saying, increase the volume. I'm just going to get my mic a little closer. That should solve it. I'd like to do just a little guided meditation anchoring Ram and Sita in an embodied way. I'm a somatic therapist as well, so I can't help myself. So let's take a moment and maybe just close our eyes if you'd like to join me with this. And drop in. Nice little exhale breath, a nice full exhale breath, anchoring in your root. Remember, Ram is Brahm, totality, fullness, our totality or wholeness. It's a term used all the time in the New Age, wholeness. Can we breathe wholeness into the center of our chest and belly? What is it like to feel full, full in this absolute silence? Feeling that core of your being and the emptiness and the fullness of the core of your being right in the center of your chest and center of your belly. And take a few breaths in there, allowing yourself to sink or surrender into that feeling of fullness. Unbounded silence. Presence with yourself or Atma. And in the center of this fullness of your being, go into the cave of your heart, center of your chest, and feel the lively presence of your heart in the center of your chest. I always can animate it by breathing into the heart. And as you feel into this percolating liveliness or dynamism of your heart, with its dancing energy, see if you can use your breath to amplify the radiance or the irradiating quality of your heart in the center of your chest to fill up this absolute silence. Maybe you can feel the percolating dynamism of Prakriti, nature, Sita. Anchored in your heart, radiating from your heart. And now here's the last little challenge. Can you hold both qualities of energy simultaneously? Absolute silence, fullness of your being, and this absolute dynamism radiating out of your heart. Can you hold both spaces simultaneously? This is SitaRam. SitaRam, the knit together wholeness of the absolute and the relative, of silence and dynamism, fullness and silence and nature. And let's see what we can do to remember that today as we dive into the rest of our session. And if you feel, Kaya, you have anything to just add or comment on that experience or something else before we dive into opening the floor?
Well, just that it really brought me back to those moments in rehearsal and in the process of the narration of, having to really let both Ram and Sita live in me in order to narrate in their voices. It really brought me back to that.
Mm. And maybe we're gonna, as I said, I keep promising we're gonna open up the floor to questions, but I kind of want to be the first to ask Kaya a question, if that's okay. Because what you just said reminded me of a question I've had for you. That's something that was extremely lively for me when I recorded my original insane, 75-hour long audio production of the complete unabridged Ramayana of Valmiki back from 1997 to 2004, 7 years in the recording studio. And to embody the characters, what was it like for you to just, I mean, we didn't just read the text, we were embodying it in a dramatic way. You embodied Sita a lot, Lakshman, Ram, the Vishnu, Hanuman. I mean, what did it feel like to have those qualities of energy, those devatas breathing through you? And how did you hold the space for them inside to do it authentically?
Well, first of all, as you know, you did so much good somatic guidance with that for me. Um, and through that process, I definitely found that being Sita was effortless. I really just further resonated with Sita as Sita the more we were in process. And so it was almost like there were two aspects of me. There was the narrator part of me and the Sita part of me, which came naturally. In fact, it was almost like when I was being Sita, it was more me, and the narrator was sort of a outside version of myself. It was really going into myself to be Sita. Mm-hmm. That became effortless. Whereas being the other characters of the story, Lakshman and Ram and Vibhishana and so on, it was more, it took effort to find those parts of myself. It was just an interesting process to see, for each of us, different kinds of beings, different kinds of presences come naturally to us. We connect with them more easily, resonate more easily. So I would just say being Sita was really like landing in myself more. And the others took some effort, some thinking.
Yeah, thinking. How did it change you to embody Sita or Ram, or how did it sink in? What we see, we become. Did it?
I think the Sita part, I can't tell if what happened is that Sita began to live in me more, or if the parts of me that were concealing Sita, were taken down. It almost feels like that. More comfort with all of those contradictions, being there and all as divine. So that I think that there's something about Sita that has stayed with me, or that was there that's now more inhabited than before. I think so.
I remember, just so everyone knows, after we finished the project, the three narrators got together and all of them said, "It's too early, Michael," because I was asking, how did this affect you? How did this change you? And they all said, "It's too early to tell." But then they ended up sharing beautiful stories of how it trickled into their lives. So speaking of trickling into your lives, I now think it's a good time, unless you have something else to say, Kaya, to open the floor. And I think you're better at this. I don't know. I know there's the hand raising capability, which I think you probably know how to do that better than I.
They know how to do it. You all can raise a virtual hand or I guess type into the chat and we could read questions. It's up to you if you want to type or if you want to raise a virtual hand, and then we'll call on you if you have a question.
It looks like Undine has raised her hand. So you can unmute your mic, and Undine, who's just been sending me beautiful experiences. Great stuff that Undine has been sending me.
Well, I know Michael for many years, and it's a pleasure to meet you, Kaya. Thank you for putting this production together, or working with Michael to put this together, I've told Michael a little bit about what this has meant to me. So I wanted to tell you as well, is that although I've been meditating for most of my life, I also practice TM, as Michael does. I've never really been drawn to the Vedic stories. And in fact, with the Ramayana, it has been a trigger for extreme anxiety. And so I never really wanted to delve into it. And when or someone actually mentioned Sita's gems to me, said, oh, well, maybe this would kind of help you feel more, just more comfortable with the story, because it was kind of fascinating and yet horrifying at the same time. And so, to be honest, this is the first time I've completed anything related to the Ramayana, because before I would start to read it, or I'd hear somebody give a talk about it, and it would just create such anxiety. So Sita's Gems has been the first time that I know it was highlighting segments of the Ramayana to bring out her story, but it was the first time I could complete it, and I finally feel like I understand the big picture now. And that I appreciate what you were just saying a few minutes ago about, it's kind of like synthesizing the contradictions. And I think before I had been very hung up on the one dimensionality of, there's obviously the characters as humans are not always expressing, ideal behavior. And even Ram or Lakshman or Sita themselves, there's that scene where Ram has gone to get the golden deer, and Sita and Lakshman are having this very intense conversation, and neither of them are on their best behavior. And so I realize now that just because you could quote something from the Ramayana doesn't mean that that's actually the message. That's part of the complexity of these characters in human form. I have quite a few thoughts. I don't want to dominate the conversation, because if anyone else has something to add, I don't want to take up too much time.
That was a very good start. So that was more of an experience than a question, just making peace with the contradictions.
Yeah, maybe I will ask a question, and then if there's time, I could come back and ask or bring out some other points. But I wanted to ask you, Kaya and Michael, do you feel that the Ramayana, as I now understand it, has so many layers of meaning? Do you think that it was intended, Valmiki's intention, that we perceive whatever level of meaning is important to us at that time in our life? Or is there a danger of projecting our own life onto the character? I guess, is it meant to be speaking to the level of need of the hearer, or is that something that we, have to caution ourselves that I'm not projecting onto?
It's a great question. I'd love to dive in, unless you have something you want to jump in on, Kaya.
I do, but go ahead. Yeah.
That's kind of the essence of all my work with the Ramayana, is understanding, first of all, it stood the test of time. It's thousands and thousands of years old. We don't even know how old it is, because it was an oral tradition before it was written down. If I go with Nilesh Oak, who's a colleague of mine, he has incredibly good research showing that the actual happened about 12,000 years ago, which seems to stretch the boundaries of anthropology, but at least there's so many references, particularly to the alignment of the planets and the stars, that indicate that it's that old. Let's just call it old. So it stood the test of time. It's spread horizontally across cultures, throughout Southeast Asia, Thailand, Burma, Indonesia, Buddhist countries, Muslim countries. So to me, there's a expression, that which lasts longest is closest to the truth. So that said, how brilliant was Valmiki, who I feel a very dear connection with? to create this structure that is so multi-layered and so multidimensional. It's almost inconceivable. The story itself is so complex. Just the narrative is so complex. The number of characters, the number of layers, the circular storyline. But here's the essence of what I want to get to. This is my eureka already 20 some years ago. Benita's heard me talk about this many times. Everyone, particularly when I'm in India speaking, everyone wants to have a definitive understanding of what this section means and what that means and who Sita is and what's Ram and how come there's three, that Ravana had three brothers. What does this mean? And that is one level to understand the meaning. I mean, even that has many levels. But here's the key. The magic of the Ramayana is that it's process oriented. There is no definitive meaning of each of the sections. It is so flexible in its archetypal layers that we go through these emotional swings in the Ramayana. It purifies the emotional body. I'm convinced that that's the level that the Ramayana works on, because it is this branch of Vedic literature called Itihasa. It is one of the more expressed values of all of the full range of Vedic literature. This one is to purify the emotional body. And that's why you have these incredible plays of opposites. The Ramayana is filled with plays of opposites, where, I mean, the opening one of the most powerful ones is when King Dasharatha has to banish his son, which he loves more dearly than his life, and it cost him his life. But he promised Kaikeyi to give her two boons. We're filled with these plays of opposites, swinging us one direction and the other, purifying our heart and mind. So in answer to your question, what's really happening is the Ramayana is working on you, and you're working within it. It's purifying you, and the swings of emotion and the layers, it's a process. You're supposed to look how we get so attached in the story. In the beginning, look what happens. It's very clear. It's right in the Valmiki Ramayana. It's edited out of some of the abridged versions that the demigods come to Vishnu and Mahalakshmi and ask them to incarnate on earth. And then we forget about it. We forget that they're Godhead incarnate. And even they forget about it. We get so wrapped in the story. How could Ram treat Sita this way? Well, just back off and remember, they're calling the shots. So I guess that's the essence. It's process oriented. It's purifying you. And the level of richness and depth that it has the capacity to purify is a testimony to how insanely brilliant Valmiki's cognition and the way he expressed it. And we're still working through it. We're still struggling through it. We're still having meetings and discussions to figure out what it means and getting so caught up, like, how could Ram treat Sita this way? That is the process. That is the process of what you're going through. It's doing its job beautifully. That's my long answer.
I would just add, I'll just add a bit that I think that we are meant to take these stories deeply and profoundly personally. We're meant to learn from these stories, yes, about the divine, and yes, about the cosmic order and what is dharma and the order of Gautama and all of these teachings. But we could get all of that in teaching form, which we have plenty of shastra, scripture, and teachers who give us teachings. So there's a reason why katha and itihasa, these sacred stories, are part of this tradition. It's because this is where the teachings become profoundly personal. And the story of the Ramayana, we are learning about the human experience. Recently, I selected several segments from the Ramayana for students from Valmiki's, where I did some storytelling, one from Ram, one of Sita, and one of Hanuman, where each of them has a moment of going into a tailspin of total despair and catastrophic thinking. And this is a very human experience. And we get to witness without, losing a hair on our own heads. We get to witness the experience of, in this case, going into a spiral, a down spiral of catastrophic thinking. What is that? What does that look like? How do I resonate with that experience? And then we get to witness what they do about it. And so I believe, and I think the tradition says we are meant to take all of these stories very personally. And yes, they're divine beings. And at the same time, they're in human form, which means they're dealing with having a human experience, as are we. And we are also, the divine is seated in each of us, and we are having a human experience. So yes, it's not that everything they do is perfect, because everything Ram does is perfect because he's Ram. No. Everything Sita does is perfect because she's Sita. No, her words to Lakshman are horrifying in that moment that you referenced, Ondine. So yeah, I think you're meant to take it personally, and it's okay to see, oh, this way that they behaved in that moment, I disagree with. And then we also see the karma that comes. There's a karma that comes for Sita after that, for example. So yeah, it's personal and it's human as much as it's divine. Kate Hartman has some beautiful words in here as well, if you want to read in the chat about story. And also, I want to make sure we see if anyone else has any question or to put in the chat or hand to raise.
Bonita Rose has raised her hand, so you can unmute. And I just want to frame this on what we're doing before you start, Bonita, is, why are we holding this meeting in the first place? I didn't really say that. First of all, we released Sita's Gems in December. And except for a few people sending me notes and messages, very, very few, because people are just finishing it now, I've discovered. We told you to take your time, and you really did. So, so this is for us as well as you. We want a forum, because this is challenging material on many, many levels. And it's a delight for us, and hopefully a delight for you to just go deep with this process. We didn't want to just release Sita's Gems and that was it. This is a lifelong experience. I've been on the Ramayana for 33 years now. So it never gets old. So with that, Bonita, go ahead.
Well, I just want to thank both you and Kaya. This is such a beautiful, inspiring, it's always a joy to listen to Ramayana stories and little snippets. It's really uplifting. But I just want to go back a little bit at the beginning when we did the meditation. I recall something Maharishi said. I'm also do TM for many years. I've known Michael for many years. Maharishi said that enlightenment is the coexistence of opposites. And so during that meditation, I could feel the small boundaries of my body and then unboundedness at the same time. It's really lovely. Mm. Also reminds me of what Carl Jung says, that how do you hold the tension of the opposites? It's very similar.
You and I are totally on the same page on that one, Bonita. That's my favorite, quote from Maharishi ever, which is enlightenment doesn't lead to, it is the coexistence of opposite values. And the Ramayana, I feel, is the stepping stones to that. If we could automatically just kind of go, okay, full absolute, full unbounded being, and then this incredible diversity of the ever-changing universe. To hold, that's the primordial that's the primordial opposite. That's something that a human nervous system has to grow and evolve to be able to handle those extreme swings, the ends of the universe. That's what Ram is bending Shiva's bow. He's trying to bend the absolute down to the relative. What happens? It breaks, because the world wasn't ready for it yet. We're not ready for it. So how can we grow in that direction? Baby steps. Our whole lives are filled with plays of opposites. The Ramayana is filled with plays of opposites. That, to me, is the secret of its power, is that we have one value. This is from Jung as well. We have one value. the opposite value comes up. You can't reconcile it. You know, we just have this feeling, oh, Sita's finally reunited with Ram. There should be so much love and care, and that Ram has to uphold his Raj Dharma. And we can't handle, it's irreconcilable, this extreme. So we only can transcend to some deeper level of synthesis that somehow embraces these seemingly, that's the key word, seemingly play of opposites. That's the course of our evolution. Somehow embracing these irreconcilable values. That is why I feel the Ramayana is one of the most powerful evolutionary tools, especially for people who love story, like Kaya and I.
I want to just sort of play the antagonist as well with what Michael just said about that moment with Sita, when it's as though she's being rejected on the altar of Ram's duty as Raj, as king. And on the one hand, as Michael said, we can kind of see it from above and transcend it and see that there's a bigger picture happening. And on the other hand, we can also experience the rage and the grief that we should naturally have, which Sita does as well. Aryaputra, she says, you know, in that moment, like, how can this be? She's calling out to her beloved in confusion and rage and grief. And so we can be all of that. We can see it from above, transcendent, and we can also have all of the emotions, just like the characters themselves allow themselves to have the richness of humanity, which is emotion.
Well said. Yeah. So that's the other play of opposites, transcending and also being of the earth. That's the other play of opposites. I mean, and that's the key thing. People ask, have you ever noticed in the Ramayana, one of the key things, which is kind of the opposite of a lot of kind of so-called spiritual thinking, where people, you know, get over your feelings, transcend your feelings. No, in the Ramayana, everyone feels their feelings first fully, like really, I mean, they carry on. I mean, when the brothers find out their father has died, they're just rolling on the ground. I mean, they feel their feelings fully and they let go. Whenever I work with people somatically, it's just feel your feelings fully and then let them go. You do both. You don't just go to the transcendent right away, because that's basically spiritual bypass. Anyone else have a question? This is great. Two great questions for starters. And we really have a good group here tonight. I think there's almost 50 people here.
And I want to say you're welcome. You know, I think nothing, probably Michael and I agree, nothing is taboo. You can ask anything about the Ramayana. You can also ask anything about the project and the process as well, if you're curious about that.
Undine raised her hand again. That's all right. No one's speaking, Undine. You can just jump in.
Yeah, I'm kind of known for having lots of questions. I think one thing that has been very transformative for me, and the Sita's Gems has been a big part of that. In the past year, I've done some very deep soul searching, some therapy, and I've realized that, you know, a lot of my assumptions about life was that they're all good, that everything, you know, all positivity. I mean, that's kind of natural, right? And so I was often wondering, well, why does this story or any I mean, you've got the Bhagavad Gita. I mean, there's so much battle and warfare, and it's like, why can't we tell the story of life through bliss instead of tragedy? You know, it's like, come on. But I've gotten more comfortable with tragedy. Maybe that might be a strong word for my life, because it certainly isn't my experience. But I guess just like you were saying, the coexistence of opposites and that contradiction, the synthesis and the contradiction of wholeness and those coexistence of the opposites is really like you're reminding us, that's what the full human potential is, not to shy away from something that's not the ideal, what we would assume to be the ideal. That there's a much greater richness in wisdom when it has incorporated both. Something that Kaya said earlier that I also wanted to ask about, maybe you could elaborate a little bit. The scene at the end when Sita returns to Mother Earth, I was actually just really stunned at that section. And when you were saying Sita is another word for Shanti, Shanti is peace, and she becomes Ram's peace, I was thinking about how, at first there was the shock of Sita, going into the earth, and he's enraged and devastated. But then he integrates that, and he is reminded of his true nature. He had forgotten his true nature, and then he's reminded. And then I think, and I want to ask you to elaborate a little bit more, the way the story describes how he has this golden statue of Sita with him. From that point forward, the 10,000 years of the reign of Ram Raj, everything is wonderful because he has truly embodied not only his own wholeness, but he now totally embodies Sita as his peace. She's not physically there, but he has now finally, it's not that she's some, a wife that he had to rescue, and then she has to, it's like she truly has become integrated into his heart at that point. And that's why he was able to have such a successful 10,000 year reign of peace in Ayodhya. So I just wanted to say that, that whole description of, in fact, I wrote it down. I was listening to it again today. For an hour, all the world seemed to be held spellbound in solemn wonder. It was such an incredible description of, like, the whole world was shocked and transcended at that moment. So if you could maybe elaborate a little bit on that Sita being Ram's peace, and how that comes to play in the ending of the Sita's gems, and then the next 10,000 years of his reign.
That's for you, Kaya.
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, just to peel back the curtain a little bit, I'll share that the lines that Sita says as she's calling on Mother Earth to consume her, take her back, was one of the only things I think in recording session in the studio that Michael and I did it several times, and then we listened back, and then we chose the one that felt right. It's such an important, powerful moment. A couple of things about that. One is the golden statue. There's a lot of meaning about gold in the tradition. Actually, this month, at the end of this month, we have Akshaya Tritiya, which is a Vedic festival day, is a day where you are supposed to buy gold. But gold is symbolic of what is eternal, what never diminishes. And so this is Sita it's representative of that essence of Sita, that Shakti that is undiminished. And in human form, we slowly, we slowly are diminishing as we age, so to speak, right? So it's that undiminished Shakti that she is, and she is his Shakti at the primordial level. She is his power. And so he, yes, is more full when she's not limited by the body anymore. And they say that, Mahalakshmi is seated in the heart of Vishnu, not because she's smaller than Vishnu, but because she is the heart. She is the Shakti. And so he was driven by Sita all along. And now he's even more, and I'm sure Michael will have something to add, but what you're saying, Undine, also makes me think of something else that my guru said about one of Sita's other names, which you hear us say in the narration, which is Vaidehi. Vaidehi, Vaidehi. It is because she is the daughter of Videha. That's the name of her father who found her in the earth as a baby. And Videha, Deha means the body, and Vi means without. And so she is Vaidehi, means she is the one who is utterly free from body identification. And so she is really being fully herself in the moments when she is, she casts off the clothing of a princess and she walks through fire and she goes into the earth. She is utterly free from the body identification. That's her true nature. And so she's Vaidehi, is what that name we can think really means underneath the surface of the daughter of. But it's such a powerful moment. And I think, like with all of the Ramayana, we can listen to it again and again and again and glean something different depending on what we happen to be going through in our personal lives. Yeah.
Beautiful answer. I have nothing to add to that actually, because I thought it was so good. But I do see that Becky has her hand raised.
I don't have a very specific question. My brain is a little fried after a very long day, but I'm thinking of Dina Merriam's book on Sita, that really made her more multidimensional for me. You know the book I'm talking
Yes,
about? I can't
Untold
think of the
Story of
title.
Sita. And
Yeah.
Untold Story of Sita is fantastic. It's the only book that's made me cry multiple times.
I'm about to cry now. Just thinking of it. It gave me everything that reading the two versions of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata that I had not. I felt very unfulfilled. I mean, I understand it a little bit better now with the discussion about the symbology, and I'm a little more comfortable, but that book just kind of blew me away and filled my heart and made it more possible for me to feel Sita in my heart, in my spirit. So I guess that's not really a question, but if you have any comments about that
It's really good. Thank you for bringing that up, Becky, because that book really touched me. I have to tell you, the first time Nina Rao came on board very early in the project, and Nina Rao is a very influential figure in the whole bhakti world. She's Krishna Das's manager and also his musical partner, and also a very powerful woman. And she had a podcast on the Love Serve Remember Network, and she had Dina Merriam on as a guest. Mirabai Starr and her co-hosted that event.
I love Mirabai too.
Yeah. And I tell you, the first time I heard Dina, I go, I just hope she doesn't, maybe she'll hear this. I thought, she's really an unusual person. I don't know if she's going to, because we were talking about the people we were going to invite on to be involved with this. And I said, Dina is like all past life stuff. It's just too strange for me, and I decided to read her book. And boy, was I touched. Now, here I am. I'm a purist. I stick with the Valmiki Ramayana as the source material. But boy, was I touched by it. And then I got together with Dina. She is extremely established in a very beautiful place. She, so I worry with people like that who write books like that it's a kind of a fanciful projection. In her case, I could see it was the real thing.
Yeah.
She as authentic as I could feel, she was right there. And she was just describing her experiences. And then she told me, Michael, I can't really participate in this project because the narrative you are working with is just so foreign to me. It doesn't feel right. I'm telling you some of the behind the scenes stuff here. And I ended up first having, this shows you, judgment at first. I first having an aversive reaction to her, and then just ended up adoring her. And I convinced her, I can be very persuasive, But I convinced her that we needed her voice involved as one of the commentators to hold that space for that kind of energy. And that she didn't have to worry about what we were doing is different from her. She should just pick her 3 passages and do it her way. That was the beauty of it, because Sita's Gems is all the facets. And she has a very different perspective than all the other commentators. But boy, did it enrich the project, and just being around her. And her and I are doing, we're doing a whole series of these satsangs on April 30th, which is Akshaya Tritiya. Her and I will be doing a live stream on Facebook, talking about the evolutionary value of Sita. So that's coming up at the end of this month. And we'll
Sounds
keep you
wonderful.
posted. Yeah, she's amazing. She's
Thank you.
an enlightened being.
Yes, the authenticity comes through in the book very strongly, that this is coming through her. It's not something that's coming out of her mind. It's coming through her whole being.
And you
Thank
can
you.
you can feel that when you listen to it, because everyone I know touches them so deeply who's read the book. So I do recommend The Untold Story of Sita. Thank you, Becky. Shri, good to see you.
Good to see you, Michael. It's been a while. This email communications we have, they're not really communications, I would say. But good to see you finally on face-to-face on Zoom, at least.
I just want to introduce everyone. Shri Raut is a friend in Chicago, a colleague in Chicago. And how many years ago, he is an IT person who developed a video game on the Ramayana. And it was really quite brilliant. And I helped write the storyline for it that he recruited me for it. And I think he had some challenges with the ultimate release of it, but it was just so powerful to work with him on that. It was really an intricate video game with really subtle values brought out. And, one day it'll be released. Anyway.
No, Michael, you're doing great job. I was born listening to this story, right? In India, I spent 25 years and everyone talks about different Ramayana. Somehow the original Valmiki Ramayana got diluted in my mind because everything said something this and that and everything. But when I heard your Ramayana, the audiobook, that got back to me, got me back to the track, I guess, onto the thought process of what Valmiki must have thought. I mean, I don't definitely claim that I know what he thought, but definitely I was much more intrigued with the Ramayana original work that you did. And later on, I always saw your great other things, that Rama Dharma was great. And Hanuman's work that you do with KD was also great. Hanuman's leap of faith. Sita, I have some comments. I'll say some things, and then I have one question about the process, as Kaya mentioned. So this is a great epic, right? Ramayana is a great epic in my mind. And heroines of this great epic, like Ramayana, have extraordinary lives, right? So it's Ramayana, Rama's story, but the heroine Sita has nonetheless never less than Rama. She has amazing birth. She comes from the earth. Then she has amazing life, as Kaya mentioned, works on multiple levels of consciousness, like Durga, multiple hands. I love that analogy. And then she goes back to earth. And Rama's main life principle, or the avatar, the cause of his thing is like vanquish the evil, right? One of the things that he says, vanquish the evil. He destroys Ravana. And Sita was part of that. And she paid price for that in my mind somehow, because she has to be away from him. Her life has to go through those things. Again, one way to say that, right? It was one level you say that. So to say, I would say, because Sita itself in the Ramayana says, in Valmiki Ramayana says that Na tantri vidyate veena. That means the veena is one of the instruments that India has, this with a string instrument. And what Sita says is, Rama, you are a veena, that instrument, but the string itself is me. I am the string. So what is the use of that instrument without a string? And Rama accepts that. Yeah, that is true. So it is that's why it's called SitaRam, right? Sita's name is taken before Ram. It's not Ram Sita. No one says in India or anywhere else Ram Sita. The same thing as for Radha Krishna also. Radha Krishna, the heroines are given importance. It's a Shakti. Shakti is the active and capable of creation, maintenance, destruction. The Godhead is kind of there, but Shakti is doing all these movements in the whole energy consciousness. Play of consciousness happens because of her. And Ramayana, without Sita, there is no Ramayana, right? There are so many incidents that happen when Ram goes for Vanavas or the forest dwelling. Sita says, I'm going to come with you. And Ram says, well, there is no need for that. The Kaikai who is asking me to go is not asking you to go. You can stay. This is your palace. Take care here, take care of my parents if you want to. Go enjoy your life. It's me, I'm supposed to go. And Sita says, no, I'm going to come with you. There is no saying that for that. And then the way she convinces him is also amazing. She starts laughing when Ram is convincing her. And then Ram says, why are you laughing? What is this? I'm telling you something, stay here. This is danger. And she says, oh, maybe my dad married me to a woman. One way to say that you can't protect me, you can't take me there. Ram just keeps quiet and he takes her. Once he takes her, Ravana comes and all the story happens. If you'd have stayed in this palace, nothing would have happened. But anyway, I will stop. I have a lot more thoughts just came in my mind. But one thing I wanted to say, why Sita? Why did you choose Sita at this point, Michael and Kaya? I know you have done Hanuman work, but because there are so many characters in Ramayana, there is right from Sugriva or Bibhishan or Lakshman, who is like with Ram all the time, right? Or his mother. These people send us, with devotional moments, they go with some other aspects of Hanuman and things like that. Why do you choose Sita in this process?
Well, I'll start that, but then Kai, I want to hear your perspective on too, and why this incredible powerhouse group of women agreed to do this and are really into it. I mean, for the Hanuman project, I just had to convince Krishnadas, just one person. This, I had to convince 15 women to join me on this project. So Shri, I really felt that, first of all, I'm a devotee of Ram. He's my Ishtadevata, Ram Vishnu. So for years and years and years, it was just Ram, 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 Ram. When I taught the course for the NKB Ashram in Taos, that 7-session Ramayana course that some of you I know participated in, I remember I've told the story a few times. If you've heard it, I'll just repeat. Hanuman Das, who runs the NKB Ashram in Taos, said, Michael, we're all about Hanuman. You gotta focus on Hanuman. And I said, I don't really know Hanuman that well. All my attention has been on Ram. And one of the students in the course said, Michael, you know Hanuman, because if you had all your attention on Ram all these years, you really know Hanuman. And that was a eureka where I said, you're right, because I share that with Hanuman, all my attention on Ram. But there's some personal things for me, but let's put it this way. If you know Jyotish at all, I went into Venus Shukra Mahadasa. And I always felt I need to put my attention on the divine feminine now. This is not only for the project itself, but for me personally. And I do these projects, Shri, not only because I'm such an expert. I grow through the process of doing these projects. I learned about Hanuman imbibing all his values by working with Krishnadas on Hanuman. That's how we worked on the project. Krishnadas and I got together on Zoom and he would tell stories. That was how we prepared. He just told me stories. On this one, I would say it was just a destiny, a feeling of destiny, that I had to do this project with the Divine Feminine and go through it no matter what. And not only that, people who know me, I'm a fairly strong lead. I had to completely defer to the women, that I was there to support them. And if you know the 15 women involved, they're very strong individuals. And my job was to support them and defer to them, which is extremely challenging for me because I'm a producer. Producer has to take the lead. But I had to say yes to whatever they wanted and direction they said. So it's destiny, and personally, I actually feel this is the most significant of all the projects I've done, personally, because this is the one that was most needed. The world needs this right now. Sita was in the background. She needed to come to the foreground. The divine feminine has been in the background. It needs to come to the foreground. The voice of the divine feminine needs to be much stronger in the world. There'll be much less war and strife in the world if the divine feminine comes into the foreground. That's why I did it. Kaya?
You know, I think that the Sita, we could say, I'm going to start by saying the Sita aspect of the story is something that makes us uncomfortable when we don't understand it. It's like the one part of the Ramayana that we go, oh, this part I'm not sure about. I don't like how Ram acts with regard to Sita. I don't understand this. It's uncomfortable without our understanding, and we sort of set it aside. I have two children. I have two boys, and we read the Ramayana over and over and over and over again. We're doing it now because of Navaratri, once again, going through it again. And for me as a mother, for years, there was always this big question mark, the Sita question mark. And so by going more into her story, what ended up happening was not just understanding Sita, but actually understanding the whole story in a whole other way that I think remains a secret until you get through that threshold and get to the goddess, get to Sita. Understanding Sita, I think, reveals the secrets of the Ramayana that are otherwise a mystery, even when we think we understand it. And it is a good reminder that I think the whole Sanatana Dharma is a Shakti tradition, traditionally, originally. Like I think you mentioned, Shri, we have all these feminine forms and all the goddesses, and it always goes back to that. It's a goddess tradition, even though that's been, lost. So it's time to reclaim that. I think it's time for Sanatanis to reclaim that. And it's time for the world to learn that the primordial feminine is actually the secret to life itself. And if we look at Hanuman as an example in the story, just to add one more thing, sometimes we think, oh, you have to go through Sita to get to Ram. Like it's the Ramayana. Ram is Vishnu. It's all about Ram. But if we look at Hanuman as an example, Hanuman has to go through Ram first to get to Sita. Right? And I think and then he goes back to Ram, and it's like a whole new realm, a whole new world for even Hanuman. And I think it's like that. We think we're going to understand Ram and the Ramayana, but when we really understand Sita, then we have more of the secrets. I mean, there's no such thing as olive, but that's my experience anyway with Sita. So when I heard about this project, it was an immediate, I have to be involved with this. There's no way this isn't going to be something that I'm involved with, because the Ramayana is such an important part of my personal life with my children. And they don't play video games, but Shri, if that video game ever does see the light of day, they would be allowed to play that video game.
Undine, I know you have another question, but I just want to see if there's, just before we dive in, if there's someone else just who might want to get one in, because we might be nearing the end of our time, but I'm also comfortable going a little longer. We talked about 75 minutes, but I have no resistance to going a little longer. So unless someone has another question, I'll give it to Undine, but
there is something from Priya in the chat. I can read it out loud.
Okay, go ahead.
From Priya, I have come to appreciate Sita a lot more with time. I've recently started discovering her beyond Sita as a character in the Ramayana. To me, she beautifully embodies the divine feminine, like you all mentioned. What do you think helps us come in contact with our own inner Sita and make her come to life?
Could you repeat that last part again?
I think the question is, how do we come in contact with our own inner Sita and make her come to life within? Yeah. Mhm.
That's a question for you, Kaya.
You know, I think that just is going to be so diverse. There's such a variety. I would say find what's meaningful for you about Sita personally and lean into it, whether it's her moments of despair or her moments of rage or her moments of innocence, and find that within yourself and really embody it. But I will say, speaking with the in conversations between me and the other narrators, who, you know, each of us had to embody Sita at different stages of her life, one of the things that was very real for each of us was the feminine rage as something really meaningful to get in touch with, that felt like it had to come to the fore in the telling of the story, and that we each had to embrace. And so whatever that means, if that resonates, I've just share that, because that came through for each of the narrators in this project, was really embracing the feminine rage that comes through in moments with Sita when she's, you know, giving her commanding opinion to Ram, or when she's speaking directly to Ravan. Yeah, that's a big question. Beautiful question.
And I think what Kaya mentions is about the rage, but I would say all the emotions.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to pick up Sita. The thread to Sita is all of her emotional expressions as different flavors and facets of her being. And at least for me, in a man's body, you know, it's very simple. Exploring the fabric of my heart, the nuances and fabric of my heart, you know, in a somatic level, in my case, because that's what I do, feeling into the body. And you can also ask Sita. Sita is an embodied presence. Sita is not some historical character in an ancient epic that's no longer here. Sita is an energetic reality happening in every point in creation. She's an avatar. She's Mahalakshmi. Her energies, I mean, the earth is here. You want to feel Sita? Lie down face down on the earth and breathe through your heart. That's Sita. I do that almost every day.
There's one more thing that just came up for me listening to Michael, and I think it also connects to some things that Ondine brought up and others as well. I think the magic of Sita, and I think the magic of the feminine, is that she's not transcending her emotions and herself. She is fully caught up in each moment. And I think that's hard for a lot of quote unquote spiritual seekers to grapple with, because of the tendency toward spiritual bypass and avoiding feelings and avoiding the muckiness and the messiness and of life. And who is Sita? She's Lakshmi. She's the lotus. She's in the world fully, though she's not diminished by it. And if you listen to the story, you see, you know, when she sees the magical deer, she is totally caught up. When she's angry at her husband for not letting her come to the forest like she wants to, she is completely caught up. In every moment, she is totally in it. She's totally caught up. And we think, oh, but I'm spiritual. I'm not supposed to get caught up. But what would happen if we let ourselves be like Sita and be totally caught up, be overwhelmed almost by each moment fearlessly? It can be scary, but that is where Sita is, I think.
Well, powerful answer. So, Ondine, do you have a shorter question? Because we are going to take it towards wrapping it up shortly.
Sure, just it's a comment, a very short comment. I totally love both of the things that both of you said about, you know, fully embracing all of those emotions. But one thing that really struck me was her lack of resentment. And so in the final scenes when she's, going into the earth or asking Mother Earth to take her in, it struck me that her heart was not sullied by resentment. And so when you speak about the somatic experience of embodying Sita, what I felt was it brought to my attention that I had some resentment, and that is not Sita. So she embodied something to me. I mean, it's one thing, I understand what you're saying about the feminine rage, but that's like the total power of nature speaking through, this voice of the divine feminine. But resentment is a small, partial view. And so for me, it became apparent that, we talk about with the need for the more recognition of the divine feminine in world consciousness. And there might be a little bit of feeling like, that's right, we've been downtrodden, blah, blah, blah. But that's not the same thing as Sita's power, her voice of, the divine rage, you could say. Resentment is the sullied heart. And so for me, that was something that really stood out. That's like, she doesn't express resentment. But that was like a little something that needed to be purified from my experience. It just brought to my attention.
That's beautiful. And that's, to me, that's the Ramayana in motion. That's something in you that had to be purified. And the Ramayana is a vehicle for that purification of our emotional body. And I would encourage you to start allowing yourself, what Kaya said, to feel the feelings fully. Let them move through you, and then and each time there's some new integration that happens from that experience of moving through it. Meaning, when you have an emotional reaction to something in the Ramayana, it's doing its thing. It's working.
Mm-hmm.
Kaya,
I
go
think,
ahead.
just that the places that we tend to go, like resentment, guilt, shame, these are not primary emotions. They indicate unprocessed emotions, don't they? And I think that's what comes up for us because we struggle to really feel our feelings. We've been told that we're too big, we're too much, it's not appropriate, it's uncomfortable, or it wasn't modeled. Like my husband will say, I can't believe how our children behave, act sometimes. And I'm like, because they feel safe. So we get the full, horror show, right? So Sita is not resentful because she felt the feelings in the moment and processes them. And so there's nothing there.
Really, really good. I've loved spending this time with all of you. This is good to just hear what your process is. I don't know how many of you are listening to Sita's Gems. We were going to ask that at the very beginning, because I know some of you are Kaya's students who maybe haven't gotten Sita's Gems yet. Some of you maybe are about to get Sita's Gems. We can tell you how to do that if you're interested. But I just love hearing these questions and putting attention on this, and I remember, Benita, after we did the Hanuman, I did one of them, and then the plan was to continue to do more of them after we released Hanuman's Leap of Faith. And I think we only did one, but maybe we'll do more of these, because this was a delight to do this kind of sanyama, which is kind of like a focused attention on this knowledge, and to hear from you and to hear your sharing. It's really good stuff coming out. Kaya, you want to add something, or anyone else have any closing remarks?
I'll just say thank you for listening and joining. And it's just always a delight to be in Sangha with people who love these stories and these teachings.
Well,
Yeah.
there's all kinds, lots of new messages coming up here. Um, Forest of Enchantment by Chitra Devakaruni, another one of the commentators. Um, um, yeah. Deeper appreciation. So there's some people who just got this. So anyway, if you want to know, just for those who have not gotten Sita's Gems yet, simple website to remember, sitasgems.com. Very, very, I can put it in the chat. Sita or Kaya, maybe you can add it in while I'm, because
Sure.
you're always you're always one step ahead of me anyway.
I have 18 arms.
She does. Working with Kaya, it's like I have a thought. She's already done like, 4 things. So sitasgems.com. And if you're one of Kaya's students, if you want a little discount, you do use Kaya 10 for a 10% discount. If you know me, you can use VAK 10 or Michael 10, and that's a 10% discount. If you're already listening to Sita's Gems, I'm going to send out the replay tomorrow, and I'm going to give you an offer you can't refuse to help us spread the word. The reception has been great to Sita's Gems, but it could be a lot greater. So I'm going to give you a little incentive in the email tomorrow. So even if you're already listening, take a look at my email. I'm going to encourage you to help spread the word on Sita's Gems, because as you can see, a lot more people really need to hear this. Not just women. I'm really excited. I mean, majority of the people that are ordering it are women, but there's a good 10 to 20% that are men, and that's even more significant because they really need to hear this as well. And as Undine has sent me her experiences and even an essay, you are completely welcome to send emails to me. You got the email, most of you got an email announcement from me on this, although some people, Kaya sent this too. I love to hear experiences. I mean, I spend so much time doing this. To have someone share the significance in their life, that's like manna from heaven for me to make it all worthwhile.
Yep. My children just turned my light out.
Anyway, let's see if there's any other comments here. Listening, such lots of thank yous and love. I'll look at all those. So thank you so much. Spread the word. Share your experiences. It's a very significant thing. Why do I feel this is the most significant project I've done of all my, I don't know how many dozen projects with the Ramayana? Because this is the one that had not been done yet that needed to be done. This is the most significant in terms of putting out new knowledge. Most of my other productions are preserving the existing knowledge. This one is original. I don't know of any other compilation like this. So I'm hoping a lot of people get turned onto this. And in doing so, the Divine Feminine rises to the forefront. It'll be a new world.
Jai SitaRam.
Jai SitaRam. Thank you all for coming. It's really, really, really special.
All right. Good night, everyone, or good day, wherever you are. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Kaya. Thank you, Kaya.
Be well, everyone.